Okay, so my name is James Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. I'm gonna give you this rundown. Ow. Damn it, a toenail in my sock. Wow, that sucked. Anyway, yeah, and that was kind of disgusting, wasn't it? Okay, so my name is James Williams Jr. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Gonna pick up where I just left off. So, y'all know Halloween is coming. Alright, so my friend A Dog. I'm not gonna give you his real name because he watches these things and he doesn't want his business out there. And even though I'm not gonna give you his real name, I'm going to give you his fat ass nickname is A Dog. Alright, so A Dog, if you're watching, that's for you. Deal with it. So we had a discussion about like religious shit and spiritual shit and supernatural shit. Alright? So in our discussion, he considered himself a hypocrite. And I asked him, why would you think that? And he said, because when it comes to like God and the Big Bang and all that shit, and the Big Bang has kind of been proven, but a lot of things in the Bible can't be proven. And then he asked about dinosaurs and shit like that. Me being the open minded motherfucker that I am, I told him straight, one, you're not a hypocrite. You may have hypocritical views. You may say hypocritical things, but that does not make you a hypocrite. It just makes you a person who's very open-minded and very decisive. So before you guys go throwing the definition of a hypocrite at me, I know what it means. But do you know the difference between being a hypocrite and saying hypocritical shit? Because I don't consider myself a hypocrite, but I do say some hypocritical or some controversial shit. Because when you think about it, okay, I'm going to drop it to you like I dropped it to him. We talked about Darwin. Darwin says that we evolved from that missing link that was half man, half monkey, blah, blah, blah. Now, I'm probably not saying that right, and if you guys want to go read Darwin's theory, hey, knock yourself out. But Darwin doesn't have it all the way right. Because if monkeys and animals came first, who the fuck taught us how to talk? Secondly, when was the last time you went to a zoo and literally carried on a conversation with a creature with 5 fingers on his feet and actually struck up an intelligent conversation and actually started talking to a breed or a species that has like seven or nine primate species? Not all of them have 5 fingers and stuff on their feet, but apes and gorillas do, and chimpanzees. Certain monkeys have hands and feet that are slightly similar, but they have hands for feet, so to speak, on them. If you look at them, you'll see what I'm saying. I'm trying not to insult monkeys, just in case that Darwin could be right, but he's not. Because you would think that if Darwin was right, Planet of the Apes would be existing right now, and we wouldn't have technology, or if not Planet of the Apes, if you're a Superman fan or Flash fan, then Gorilla Grodd and them would exist right now, and they'd probably destroy us because gorillas and apes are 3 or 4 times stronger than actual human beings. So you kind of got to think that if we evolve from them, how could we give up strength for intelligence? Because most people still have retarded strength, and if anybody was retarded when I said that, I apologize. But the Big Bang has its points that are correct, that they have scientifically proven. Like, for instance, the Bible doesn't mention dinosaurs, but also the Bible says that certain members of them have lived for 400 plus years. The average human lifespan is about 115, give or take, depending on how healthy a person is and how good a shape a person is. No one has really made it past 115 to my knowledge. Now, as far as the biblical aspect goes, I think it was Methuselah, somebody with a hell of a name lived to be 400 years old. All right. Now, probably modern times, you'd probably say he was maybe 40, because maybe they just couldn't keep time and birthdays, or maybe they thought that every day was their birthday because it's 365 days in a year. So that plus 400, etc., etc. Now, I'm definitely wrong on that because biblical times was a quite a bit different than us. In case you haven't counted, the Bible actually goes backwards, time wise. Like, you look at them dates. The Bible seems to be looking like it's counting backwards to me. Now, I could be wrong on that. Hypocritical statement, again. So we talked about that. And then he asked me about supernatural stuff. And being that I'm part Cherokee, I'd strongly have supernatural ties. Most Native American people will tell you that we have supernatural ties. So he asked me if I believed in Bigfoot. And I said yes. I also believe in Coyote the Trickster. Boy, we could use him right about now. I also believe in the Thunderbird. I also believe in fairies and the Deer Woman and the Eskimo Ice Guardian. I believe in a lot of supernatural shit. Can I prove that they exist? No. Can I prove that they don't exist? No. That does not make me a hypocrite. That makes me a person who has a very open mind with a hypocritical statement. But I will say this: I really don't want them to find Bigfoot. I really don't want them to find that any of these things exist, because we as humans like being at the top of the food chain. We like hunting things that we don't understand. We like killing things. We like studying things. We like putting things in cages that probably should not be in cages because I think we got the right to do that. It's the same thing with aliens and spaceships and shit. And you know how generally maybe 1 in 1,000 of the abductees that deal with aliens are black, where most of them have been white men or white women. Maybe 1 in 1,000 have been black. Or there are less alien abductees that are black that are willing to come forward. You know what I'm saying? Because honestly, aliens probably have been watching us for a while. Like, okay, you know, these black people, they've been through a lot and they ain't nothing but trouble, so we're not going to fuck with them. The Native Americans, they're dealing with these furry creatures called yetis and abominable snowmen and all this other shit. Yeah, we're not going to fuck with them. Let's start fucking with those white guys. Now, I don't know if that shit's true. No, I'm not an alien god, and I'm not a hybrid mixed with an alien or any of that other stuff, although that would be cool. I'm not, and these are things you have to take into consideration when you're exploring stuff like this, you know, because you want to be somewhat accurate, but you know you have to weigh the pros and cons on that. Now, the good news on that is we can't prove that it doesn't happen. Now, there was a book called Fire in the Sky written by Travis Walton, who was a white man who was abducted by aliens. Now, before him, it was a case of an interracial couple who was abducted by aliens in the 50s and the 60s, maybe the 30s, 40s. I don't remember, but they were abducted. There was a black man and his white wife. They were abducted. They wrote a book about it. Right? So we can't say that aliens just like white meat. All right? We can't say that because that clearly was an example of that. And then there's doctors who do past life regression therapy where they hypnotize you into whoever you used to be. And then there's doctors who hypnotize you for alien abductions, you know. So all these things have been proven. They made movies about them. Mila Jovovich did a good one, but I can't remember the name of the movie, but she was a doctor in Australia. Not Australia, excuse me, Alaska. And it's kind of like if you know that Alaska, excuse me, has like 30 days of night sometimes. So that being said, when they made the vampire movie 30 Days of Night, that shit was like as realistic as you can get, because where else would the sun not shine, and the sun being the only thing that can kill vampires? You know, if the sun never shines for 30 fucking days, vampires would be in heaven just mauling people to death. So you gotta put these things into consideration. We have not been able to prove that vampires exist. We have not been able to prove that they don't. But as legend, the only vampire that I've ever known to actually exist was Vlad Tempest. But he technically wasn't a vampire that turned into a bat and flew around. But, you know, he was the one that they claimed to be the real Count Dracula, and he just really liked drinking blood and killing people for the fuck of it, you know. But, you know, you have these people that do exist. Now, if you want to say that I am insane, I'll give you that. Because everyone has a tiny bit of insanity in us. Only the few of us who are willing to admit it and own it tend to understand where I'm coming from. Alright, if you ever did any studying into historical historical stuff. You know that when America was first settled, there was 13 colonies, and they started here in Virginia, right? And then there was Jamestown, etc., etc. Well, the 13th colony magically like wound up missing. No bodies, no evidence. They didn't have DNA, but you know, if you look at it from a supernatural standpoint, when the white man settled America, they didn't just take the land from Native Americans. They took the land from other creatures. Creatures like the Wendigo, creatures like Riggaroo, creatures like werewolves, vampires, shapeshifters, Coyote the Trickster. Um, in affecting the land, for those who don't know, the Thunderbird basically is um, kind of like a vengeful spirit. And now, depending on which tribe you go to, and depending on which tribal legend you are told, the Thunderbird was basically a hero of vengeance, so to speak. Can't really call him a hero, can't because the word vengeance does not make you a hero. But initially, depending again on what tribe you go to, the Thunderbird would take children that did not belong to the tribe because your most precious resource or is your child. You know, your future is set in the soul of your child. So if you don't have a child, you don't have a future. And the Thunderbird supposedly, allegedly, swooped down and took pale-faced children and either ate them or killed them or slung them against the rocks. And the Thunderbird was a huge, gigantic ass bird, but it was a vengeful spirit. Also, depending on which tribe you go to, shapeshifter, just like Coyote the Trickster. Now, Coyote could not only shape, but he could shift ethnicity and blend in with everybody to cause strife and chaos, which henceforth the word trickster, just like Loki in Scandinavian lore. Okay, so I began with this, these things have some merit. All right, because we got on the subject of the biblical, we got on the subject of Greek mythology, we got on the subject of Scandinavian mythology. We didn't get into the comic books because then I would have had them all damn night. But when we got onto these subjects, all right, there are 12 months in a year, and there are 4 seasons. So each season gets 3.5 months: fall, summer, winter, spring. Now there is a story in Greek mythology that explains that happened because Persephone's mom was a god, and Persephone's husband was a god. He was the lord of hell. Persephone was kidnapped by him and taken down to hell. And had she not ate that pomegranate, she would have been free. But she ate the pomegranate, so she could only live yay so much time on Earth. So from like after winter, from spring all the way back around to winter, is when Persephone's mom was happy because she had her daughter back. But winter, that 3.5 months of hell, would be cold because that's how her heart felt. Google the shit, people. Come on. So I don't have to be on this all day. But that explains the seasons. The Bible doesn't really go into the seasons because where they lived, mostly nothing ever changed. They were more like warm and desert community. Egypt and all that, because Moses wound up in Egypt to take the Hebrews to the promised land, blah, blah, blah. All right. Now, getting that out the way, now, I just explained some Greek mythology, but Greek mythology also has a different reign on how you get to hell than the Bible. Because in the Bible, the Lord created hell when he created the devil. And he said, into the bowels of hell you shall go, and never shall you return. However, I guess there was some leeway since the devil supposedly made Lilith and was able to get into the Garden of Eden as a fucking snake because supposedly God created all the heavens, the earths, and all the living beings on it. So the devil did not create a snake, as everyone has felt to believe if God created everything. Alright? People just assume that snakes are evil because the devil took the form of a snake and suckered Eve and the sucker and Adam into eating the goddamn apple. Alright? Again, Google that shit. Or pick up a book. Pick up a book, get a paper cut. You might learn something besides how to get a Band-Aid. Now, we went into that. Now, Scandinavian lore. There's the god of thunder, Thor. Now, let me explain how all of these people are kind of wrapped up together. In Scandinavian lore, you have Odin. He is the Allfather. He is God. Then you have Thor, who technically would be Jesus, only he doesn't get crucified. He fights with a big-ass fucking hammer. Now, let's not go into the Marvel Comics version of that. Let's just go right there and stop. You have Odin, and you have a whole bunch of other Scandinavian gods, but basically, Thor is Jesus. Right? Now, let's go back into Greek mythology. You have Zeus and all the other gods. And then you have Hercules, who basically is Jesus. However, I have been told, I have not found this in the Bible, and I hope that someone can find it and point it out to me. They claim that Hercules was real because him and Samson, who was supposed to be the strongest character in the Bible, had a little tiff. Now, I don't know how much of that is true. I don't care, and I don't give a shit if you can Google it. But if you can Google it and you can find it, drop it to me right here so I can go find it. And that way I can read it with my own eyes. And I don't want to read it on Google. I want to find it in an actual fucking book. Alright? Now, so you have 3 mythical gods and 3 sons. You have Odin and Thor. You have Zeus and Hercules. And you have the good Lord. And you have Jesus. You see where all of these are balling into one big clusterfuck of boom. Now you have the Big Bang. But yet, as you go through time and you go through life, you have Stonehenge. But no one really knows how those damn rocks got there. You have Easter Island. But no one really knows how those damn rocks got there. You have the pyramids, and people are saying that the humans could not possibly have made those pyramids. You'd be surprised at what the fuck slave labor can do. But no one wants to acknowledge that. They want to say that it was either supernatural or alien time travelers or some shit like that, which all could be true. And I'm going to tell you this because, alright, I know people who smoke weed, and when people smoke weed, they become like the ace philosophers on the planet. They can tell you shit that you don't know if you should take it as a grain of salt or if you should take it as true. But as a person who has grown up with maybe that much of my Cherokee heritage, I have learned that every myth and legend has some truth to it. Because if you can believe in God, why can't you believe in supernatural stuff? And I never really believed in God until I stopped going to church. I also never really believed in God until the witch rider wouldn't stop attacking me. Alright? So, God asks you to believe in the impossible. Because nothing is impossible. So, in believing in God, that means that there are more things out here that we aren't understanding or weren't meant to understand. And people don't get that. They just believe what they want, which causes a lot of clusterfucks throughout battles. Now, let me get really nasty for y'all. Most of the wars in the name of God have been fought, and most of the wars that have not been fought in the name of God have been fought over sex, drugs, and power. That's pretty much the gist of it. But no one really wants to acknowledge that either because they don't want you guys to understand it. We are a society, and as humans, no matter what your ethnicity is, we are a society of assholes. We are a society of people who don't want to think. We just want to spill blood until we find out who's right and who's wrong. And by then, it's too fucking late. So let's talk about supernatural stuff. If you can believe in God, then you should be able to believe that supernatural stuff does exist. I can't make you believe it. I can't tell you what to believe. But I can tell you this before I close out this video. If nothing is impossible, and all things can be done, or if I may quote the Quarians from Game 2 of Mass Effect, my favorite, well, Andromeda's my favorite now, but Mass Effect 2 was my favorite for a long time. Many things are impossible until they're actually done. So, my second quote is, and you get ready for this. My second quote is from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. When you eliminate the possible and all that remains is the impossible, then you have found the truth. Yes, they use that in Sherlock Holmes. And yes, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle wrote that. Sir H.G. Wells wrote War of the Worlds. Who's to say that, I'm going to quote my uncle now, who's to say that we aren't all living many different lives at the same time? Who's to say that we aren't all living in parallel universes? Sliders was one of my favorite TV shows, and it touched on stuff that X-Men and them did first. X-Men were the first comics to switch and start going with alternate universes and alternate timelines. as far as my knowledge of comic books goes. Now, I could be wrong, and you can Google that, but the first X-Men to come from a different world was Rachel Summers. She popped up in the first Secret Wars, and then she came back in the second Secret Wars, in which she never went back home because she was a slave there, and she escaped into our universe. Now, before she did it, no matter what comic book I picked up in Marvel or DC, I had never seen that happen before and then after it just started happening, where there's like thousands of Earths on each comic book front. There's Earth Prime in DC Comics, and there's my favorite Earth 616 that no longer exists in the Marvel Universe. So, like I said, Marvel, as far as I know, was doing it first. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not going to say that I'm not. But as far as I am concerned, Marvel did it first. Speaking of which, let me go to comic book man. Oh, it's not on yet. Well, anyway, after you do all your research and all your glory and find out what you should believe or shouldn't believe, then you get back with me. Because the Yetis, they're actually supposed to be guardians. The Thunderbirds are actually supposed to be guardians. Anizana, the Deer Woman, is actually supposed to be a guardian. Now, I touched on all these in my graphic novel. I'm still looking for a publisher, so if anybody knows anybody I can talk to about that, let's do it. But in closing, Earth has its own protectors. Granted, they're not X-Men, stuff like that, but, we do have that stuff. I'm James Wimp Jr. It's Comfort Habit number 2. Be seeing you.